would you like to share a little bit what brought you to the porn industry and what you're currently doing there?
Yeah. So, I was in a relationship with my high school sweetheart from age 15 to 30, and I didn't orgasm until I was 24. And like, I'd always wanted to like porn, but when I went to a mainstream tube site like that, I was really, we just don't have like the resources to learn about sex. And so I turned to porn, and like porn turned me on, but that didn't really help me have a better relationship or have a better like real sex life. And so that's really what inspired me to create Afterglow, is like I wanted to create porn that told stories that we don't typically see in mainstream porn, and that would tell stories in a way that people could take what they saw and bring it into their sex life, and it would make them feel like, I wanted to make porn that made people feel really empowered and inspired, and like they're like, oh, I can do that, like that's something I want, that's something I want to do, I can do, and like looks fun and exciting.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's a really sweet way to get involved, I think. And since you're saying that this was kind of your step into the porn industry, I would be super curious to know, has your perception of porn changed through your work as a porn company owner?
I mean, when I started in this industry, like I knew nothing, and I believed a lot of the stuff that most people out there believe. Like I thought that women in porn were like exploited and trafficked, and like that was a big problem in the industry. And I didn't know anything about like sex work or I like, and it's been, I've had a lot of amazing people in the industry just be really awesome at teaching me, and like that's really made it clear to me that a lot of how much education people need, like not just in terms of like how to improve their sex life, but I really think that it's really empowering for people to have more of an understanding about the performers that they like to watch and about sex work too. Like I think that's, for like, even for me personally, like it's been really empowering just like learning more about the industry.
So what would you say, what's like the biggest learning? I mean, you said, yeah, it's not really about sex trafficking, etc. But besides like busting some myths, what has been the biggest positive learning for you so far?
I think it's also just been great. Like I didn't know that this whole world of ethical porn even existed, and that there are so many amazing women in both like the mainstream and the ethical industry that are like really out there doing like really cool work. And so just like being able to be a part of this community, I think has been one of the best things.
Cool. That sounds great. And so from your answer, I can assume that for you, ethical porn definitely is a thing and it exists. So how would you define it?
Yeah.
What is ethical porn?
I just define it as people who care about the impact that people who care about their impact on the world. Like they care about what they're doing and what impact that makes. Whereas I feel like the current industry of mainstream porn is like just around making money. Like that's their goal. They don't really care about anything else. And that's how most industries are run. So like it's not any different from McDonald's or like finance or whatever. But I think that ethical porn, and I think it means that allows it to, that definition of like people who just care about the impact of what they're doing allows it to mean different things to different people, because different people care, you know, they're doing it for different reasons. They're trying to make different impacts on the world, if that makes sense. Like some people really care about labor, some people really care about queer representation, and like all of those things are great, and all of those things are ethical.
So although you were a newcomer to the porn industry, you weren't a newcomer to founding a company. You're a startup experienced person, and I would be curious to see, what have you taken from your knowledge, your convictions from your former startup experience to your current startup?
When I was doing the Geek company, like we kind of created a new category, and like I learned that if I didn't know something, I could figure it out. And even if a challenge seemed really overwhelming, that like I know I have the skills to eventually learn what I need to know, and I can eventually like do big things, like produce a porn that I've never done before. So it's not like it's not any particular skills. It's more just about like I know I can do things that I haven't done before, and I know how to learn how to do those things.
Great. So speaking of producing porn, super interesting, because I would love to know what your own standards are that you are set up for working conditions, for the distribution, for the production. Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah. So, you know, number one is obviously like consent of all parties. So, you know, 2257s, we have a script. We talk to the performers beforehand about who they're performing with, what acts they're expected to perform, how much they're getting paid, you know, really just full disclosure about all of that. And then on the day of shooting, you know, they're able to stop recording whenever they want. They're able to change whatever consent agreements, you know, they previously had. We just try to do everything we can to make sure that they're comfortable and they're paid fairly.
Cool. So beyond porn, as you would assume that porn is, you also have a section that's called eduporn, and I find that very, very interesting and intriguing. So what is eduporn? How does it work? And what do you think? Why is it important to have?
Yeah. So I think that people really, like, porn was ranked the #1 place to learn about sex. Like, people are getting their sex ed from porn. Like, that is happening. And it's also totally expected, because like porn is really the only place where we can see people have sex. And it's like, you know, when I want to learn about anything else, I can watch all these YouTube videos of like people doing the thing. But when it comes to sex, there's like very little practical information about how to develop these skills. And so like that was really the vision behind eduporn, is just like, and at the same time, like people want to, it's sex, it should be hot, like you should be turned on. So our whole thing is like, how do we create something that is sexy, and like maybe you're not going to masturbate to it like you would normal porn, but like you're gonna be excited by it, but then also something where you learn something new and it really provides you some benefit and some value. And that was kind of that's how eduporn was born.
So how do you ensure that the standards that you set up for porn production are being met, like very technically on set?
Yeah. So we're a small team still. It's basically me and Kim who manages content and production and emails and everything. So we have a standard checklist for all of our productions that's like, okay, you know, send the contracts to the performers, you know, like send them the script, get their 2257s, you know. So we basically have a checklist that we go through to make sure everything happens. So that's basically how it works on Afterglow production.
What about the acquired films that you get from other companies? Because I guess there it's a bit more difficult to prove that they are working according to the standards you set up.
Yeah. So mostly for the license companies, we work with people who generally have good reputations in the industry, and whose content kind of meets like seeing the pleasure of all participants. Like that's something that's important to us. And usually we talk to the person who we're licensing from and actually like meet them and get to know them at least a little bit. And then we just make sure that they have the documentation that everybody is consenting to be in the film and that people are consenting to have that content be distributed as well. So we just make sure we take those steps to confirm that. And that's because we do like, people, we do license a range of content, including, more amateur stuff, because I think people really like that. And I think it is good to have flexibility in terms of, not trying to create like too many rules, so that we can still, I think one thing that's awesome is like people who are OnlyFans creators and are making really cool content, they can get some extra distribution avenues through Afterglow. And we can just kind of help support the whole ecosystem in that way.
For yourself, what's your like favorite porn or also eduporn that you guys have produced that you really like, and why do you like it so much?
Yeah, it's 100% lip service, which was actually the first one that we did. And it's because it shows a woman telling her partner what she wants and how she wants him to perform cunnilingus on her. And like so many people, when they watch that, just feel so empowered. And they're like, oh my God, that's what I do. That's how I tell my partner what I want in bed. And I'm like, oh my God, have you not been saying anything this whole time? Like it's like crazy to me.
Yeah, it's also a very beautiful film, by the way. It's definitely
Yeah.
worth watching, and like very nice idea also with that shot through the door, etc. Like it's that one, right?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I really liked it. So yeah, cool. I guess like my last question is a bit more generally about like who is consuming ethical porn, because it's often like depicted as something that is made for women. And I can definitely see that there's a lot of a female or feminist perspective in it, but like when you look at your own users, is it actually true that women are buying your porn?
Yes. I mean, we have probably about 65% women, 35% men. So it's mostly women, but there's a lot of men too. And we're really, I think we're really we welcome everybody and we try to be really inclusive, but we try to focus, like we're a business, we have to have like a target customer. And so our target customer is like women and their partners. Because if we want to help people have better sex, it takes two to tango.
And do you have any like cool things, projects, updates, new films, whatever in the pipeline that everyone should know about?
Yeah, so we have a really cool film coming out in January called No Translation. That is a T for T porn. So it's kind of like a lot of, one thing we try to do is we try to take mainstream tropes and like twist them a little bit. So a lot of like trans porn on mainstream sites is very much like made for heterosexual men, whereas this is really like a true kind of trans love story, which is really beautiful. And then we also have one that we're going to be filming in January. I'm not sure when it's going to come out. That is going to be, we don't have a title yet, but it's around foreplay, and it's kind of going to show a couple and how they create connection throughout the day, and how that kind of integrates with their sex life. Yeah, and we're also really working on licensing more educational content too, and really better delivering on like helping people have good sex through porn. Like that's what we're trying to figure out, because it's like I've been in this industry for 2 years and I feel like I'm like just getting started.